In this video, I'll be showing the step-by-step process of making a particle system that will let your VRChat avatar shoot webs and pull objects towards you. You'll want to already have an avatar ready to add the particle system. Also, prior knowledge of how to navigate Unity will certainly be of help. With that in mind, let's begin. The web shooters consist of 3 particle systems: the main web trail, the parent pulling particle, and the child particle. Make a new particle system, and make sure its position and rotation are both 0 on every axis. Uncheck looping, set lifetime speed and start size to 100, set start colors alpha to 0, set simulation space to world, and set max particles to 1. Under emission, set rate over time to 0 and add 1 burst with a count of 1. Under shape, set angle to 0, radius to 0.001, and radius thickness to 0. Check collision, then under it set type to world, dampen to 1, bounce to 0, and radius scale to 0.001. Check trails, then under it set mode to ribbon, check attach ribbons to transform, and uncheck size effects width and inherit particle color. The rest of these settings depend on the material you're using for the trail and what size and color you want the web to be. For my webs, I'll be using texture mode tile, setting width over trail to 0.2, and keeping the color to just white. Lastly, under render, set the trail's material to whatever material you want to use for the web line. The material I use is just a standard unlit material with a simple texture of a web I drew in MS Paint. If you want to use this texture, I'll be leaving a download link to it in the description, although I feel like people could draw a better one than this. For the quest platform, you can just use a toonlit material for the trail and an additive particle material for the main particle. With that, the web particle should be finished. You can click on the particle and press play to make sure. Now onto the parent pulling particle. Duplicate the particle system you just made and insert the duplicate into the original. This will be the parent particle system. Set lifetime and speed to 5 and start size to 0.1. Uncheck renderer and trail. Under collision, set radius scale to 1, dampen to 0, and bounce to 1. Check sub-emitters and under it set the trigger to collision. Now duplicate another particle system from the parent and put it in the parent. This will be the child particle system. Under shape, set position in the z-axis to -1. Uncheck sub-emitters. Under collision, set collider force somewhere between 100 to 200, and check send collision messages. Lastly, go back to the sub-emitter tab in the parent particle system and drag and drop the child particle system. With that, the web shooter system should be complete. You can test the particles out using a cube that has a collider. Make sure the collision tab is open for the parent and child so you can see their collision bounds. The parent particle should bounce off the cube, then emit the child particle behind the cube. You can set lifetime loss for both parent and child to 1 if you don't want the particles to remain after the first collision. To put the web shooters in your avatar, you just have to put them in your left and right wrist bones. You can adjust the position and rotation of the webs until they shoot the way you want. Now I'll briefly cover animating the particle system. Firstly, I'll be duplicating the avatar in case any irreversible issues occur. Then, while selecting one of the duplicates, go into the animation tab and create a new animation for turning the web shooters on. Make sure to go into the child particle system and animate the collider force to the number of your choosing. As for the off animation, all you have to do is animate the web shooter being disabled. In order to activate the web shooters, you'll need an FX controller, a menu, and a parameter object. Double-click into the FX controller and make two new parameters. One will be a bool responsible for toggling whether the web shooters are on or off. The other is a built-in parameter, gesture right, which is an integer. Go to the Layers tab and create a new layer for the right-hand web shooter and set its weight to 1. In the layer, first put in the off animation to make it the default state, then add the on animation. Whether you choose to turn on right defaults or not will depend and must be consistent with any other animations in the FX controller. Create two transitions between the two animations. In the off to on transition, turn off exit time and set transition duration to 0. Then add two conditions. Web shooter's right is true, and gesture right is equal to 5, which is the rock and roll gesture. In the on to off transition, also turn off exit time and set transition duration to 0, but just add one condition. Gesture right is not equal to 5. Now in your avatar parameters, make sure that the web shooter bool is in both the FX controller and parameter object. In the menu, add a new toggle for the right-hand web shooter and set the corresponding parameter. With this, the web shooter will be triggered by the rock and roll gesture so long as their parameters are toggled in the menu. Repeat the process with the left-hand web shooter, and your avatar should now have working web shooters. This is the first tutorial I've made for something on Unity, so I apologize if it was hard to follow. If you have any advice or feedback on how I can make things easier, feel free to leave a comment. You can also find a finished version of the particle systems for free on my Gumroad, which I will also link in the comment section as well as the description. I've also made a bonus version that comes with web bullets that are compatible with PvP worlds, a laser pointer to help with aiming, and a submenu for switching between web modes and adjusting collider force. In any case, I hope you enjoy using your new web shooters in whatever world you want.